everyone, welcome to my channel, Lyrical Lila, but you guys can just call me Lila. Today we will be playing Crème de la Crème. It is an interactive novel game by Hannah Powell Smith on the Choice of Games website. It's entirely text-based and fueled by the power of your vast imagination. I will go ahead and read the description for the game that we will be playing today, but if you just want to go ahead and hop right into it, feel free to skip to this time. Alright, Crème de la Crème. Climb to the very top of your class at your exclusive private school for socialites. Will you study hard, find a perfect match, or embrace scandal? Gallatin College is a finishing school where young people must learn social graces surrounded by their high-class peers. When your parents fall into disgrace, the rest of high society rejects them. It's up to you to enroll at Gallatin to secure your future and restore the family's good name. At Gallatin, you'll dance with royalty, impress decorated officers, and perfect your etiquette. What will you prioritize? A spotless reputation, a prestigious social network, or a pristine report card? And who will you backstab to achieve it? Your year in this sparkling brittle world is about to begin. But are you a rake soaked in scandal, or a perfectly proper socialite, sneaking out of class or polishing your ballroom dancing? Either way, the road to high society starts here. Now, let's go ahead and get into the game. But before that, if you are interested in, hearing some of my thoughts about recording this, as this is my very first video on my channel after all, or, anything like that, maybe some bloopers, I might add some bloopers at the end, go ahead and stick around toward the end of the video. But without further ado, let's go ahead and finally actually get into the game. Prologue. All aboard. We must take pride in our gentle resilience through adversity. From the Philosophical Considerations of Lady Françoise Renault. Your mother calls you through the throng. Come on, darling, you'll miss the train. You drag your trunk through the crowd of parents, noisy students, and various relatives and hangers-on. Few people but Gallatin students take this train. Most of the people your age are dressed in the Gallatin College uniforms, just as you are. The platform is pure chaos. Thick steam billows from the engine. Guards bellow commands and blow piercing whistles. From the road nearby, car horns blare out. Younger siblings squeal, while students shriek and throw their arms around each other. Excuse me, someone behind you snaps and shoves past you for the train door. I think that I will call out there's no need to be so rude, or step aside, allowing them to pass. I'll step aside, simply allowing them to pass. All you see of the person is their back. They wear a Gallatin uniform, of course, and the back of their head is sleek and dark. They board the train without a second glance. Beside the door, your parents are waiting. Your father still has that gaunt, anxious look, while your mother has expertly applied her makeup to hide the tired expression that seems to stay no matter how much she sleeps. They've been that way since just after your 18th birthday. It's been an eventful time. Several months ago, you were planning your debut, with nothing to worry about your outfit and sparkling conversation. But with your parents' sudden fall into disrepute, all the money set aside for the debut was handed over to Gallatin College to cover your fees. Completing a year at one of Westerland's most prestigious finishing schools could help restore the family name, or so your parents think. You're untouched by all of this, your father told you. Graduating from Gallatin is an honor, and you'll make plenty of connections there who can give you a helping hand. You might even make a good marriage. In other words, your parents are depending on you to clear up their scandal. The train whistle blows, and your mother flags down a porter for your luggage. The porter tips her hat and begins rolling it aboard. Your hands feel rather empty without it, but your father pulls you into a tight hug. I'm so sorry that things have been so difficult, he tells you, but please do understand. Enrolling at Gallatin is for your own good, and for our good too. His voice cracks. Your mother's expression is careful and smooth, but she presses a knuckle against her cheek to hide a tear. I think that I will put my best foot forward and help the porter with my trunk. The porter looks surprised, but thanks you. Not every day that a Gallatin student stoops to helping out, she says with a confidential wink. But I didn't tell you that. By the time that the luggage is aboard, guards are starting to slam the carriage doors. Your parents have recovered their poise, and it's time to embark. Your father straightens the collar of your coat. I'm sure you'll do splendidly, he says. You're an excellent daughter. Even getting accepted into Gallatin was an achievement, especially after what happened with your parents. You remind yourself of that. Your mother looks away, blinking before patting your shoulder. She looks older now than you've ever seen her. People always say how alike the two of you look, like her deep brown complexion. And though your mother's hair is graying, you both have hair that is naturally black and tightly curled. All aboard, shouts a guard from the end of the platform. I give my parents a hug. A quick hug. You smell your father's familiar cinnamon-scented cologne, feel the scratch of your mother's favorite cardigan, and then you step aboard. In the carriage, students are pushing, waving, and yelling. You squeeze past the porters who are strapping down the luggage and find yourself in an empty compartment, in which two settle while watching the sea of uniforms. You'll be wearing the Gallatin colors nearly every day for the coming college year, but your own uniform still feels stiff and unfamiliar. It varies from student to student. Although everyone wears a shirt and tie, some wear red and gray check shirts and dove gray sweaters. Some wear wide-leg trousers. As for you, how do you present yourself? In a feminine way. Your checked red and gray skirt reaches just above your knees. Knee-length gray socks hug your legs. The ivory-colored shirt and gray sweater give you a clean-cut silhouette. Current feminine fashion leads toward dramatic lines. You can't change your uniform much without being told off. But your gray coat has a stiff, wide collar and the kind of puff sleeves that many women are wearing at the moment. You carefully hang your coat and blazer on a hook, making sure they don't crease, and smooth your skirt. Through the window, your parents are waving, but you can hardly see them now amidst the crowd. The door swings. A pale, red-haired student your age, with a worried expression props open the door with an elbow while taking a pair of harried-looking middle-aged women. One of the women is carrying a baby. A small boy is tugging on the other woman's trousers, begging her to pick him up. From their conversation, the women are the student's parents. "I'm fine," says the uniformed student. "Honestly, I just need to find somewhere to sit and look, here's somewhere. Goodbye, I'll write, I promise." Her tone is rather irritable. Both women give her a hug, and the little boy starts to wail. The student gives a despairing sigh. "Go on, Mother, Mama, I'll be fine," she says. After a final family hug, the group pushes past you to disembark. The student runs a hand over her severely parted burnt hair and sighs. "This is right, isn't it?" she says to you. "We're not meant to be assigned compartments. I'm new this year. I don't want to make a mistake." Her accent is markedly different from yours, and her shirt collar, unlike yours, is so stiff that it cuts unlike yours, which is so stiff that it cuts into your neck, is wrinkled and ever so slightly gray. Second-hand, you suspect, or else washed without proper precautions. The student carries on taking without waiting for an answer. The student carries on talking without waiting for an answer. "I'm Freddie Crawford. Well, really it's Winfred, but everyone calls me Freddie." I'll greet her with a warm smile. Freddie starts unpacking books from a battered leather satchel, not asking your name. She tucks an errant strand of hair behind her ear. "The summer reading was so interesting," she says. She touches the thickest book of the Philosophical Considerations of Lady Francoise Reynolds and the key text of Gallatin College. "Did you enjoy it?" Since Lady Reynolds is the head teacher, it's not surprising that she featured her own book in the summer reading. It's a doorstop of a tome with the Gallatin crest embossed in gold on the cover, dealing with delicate topics of etiquette. "I didn't exactly enjoy it, but I stayed up all night poring over the textbooks." Probably be me if I read a book like that. I'm more of a fiction person. A treatise about appropriate behavior for young aristocrats and general life advice. There's plenty of commentary on matters such as the correct table etiquette when entering a dame, or how to gently break bad news. By the way, I'm very sorry if I pronounce some words wrong. Let's continue. "I just hope that we'll get to learn more about the college history," Freddie says, standing, and stops mid-float to look up. "Oh, what's that?" Way down by a hockey stick, a lacrosse stick, and a trunk on wheels. A student is running down the platform towards your door, but a guard is already hauling it closed. The whistle blows. The student yells, but the guard does not hear him. The train whistles once more. I shout to the guard to open the door. "Stop," you shout. "Can't you see he's coming?" The guard glances up and grumbles about the importance of timing as the student approaches. "Please make sure you're prompt next time," she says. Yes, of course I will," says the student. After a moment, he crashes into your compartment along with all of his belongings. "Thanks for the help," says the newcomer with a grin. "You wouldn't believe how bad the trains were." He flings himself down and puts his feet on the seat with a sigh. "I'm Zuri Gonzalez, by the way," he says. "New this year. Call me Gonzalez. Everyone does." Gonzalez's complexion is darker than Freddie, though similar to yours, and where Freddie is scrumptiously neat, Gonzalez wears his uniform with haphazard ease. The way he tosses his thick black hair back from his face gives the impression of someone entirely physically comfortable. No matter how he appears, there's bound to be something beneath the surface. With the screech of metal on metal, the train rumbles into motion. Clouds of steam roll past, and Freddie snaps the window closed before returning to sit with her book on her lap. The movement of the train dislodges Gonzalez's cross stick, and Gonzalez leaps up with an exclamation to shove it onto the shelf above you. "Awful thing," he says cheerfully. "I'm new too," Freddie volunteers. "Final year, it's so strange to be going away from home." Gonzalez waves an airy hand. "Oh, well, I was at Junior International before I turned 18. He says, naming a staggeringly expensive boarding school on the southern edge of Westerland. "So, I'm used to being away from my parents. But it'll be nice to see some snow at Gallatin. Where were you?" Freddie hesitates in leaving you to speak. Went to Harlan, prestigious. No, I don't want to go to academic school. Alright. I went to Hotsfield. Hotsfield school feels so long ago now, even though you only graduated 6 months ago. Your friends there have fallen out of touch. Compared to what you've read of Gallatin, Hotsfield is far more strict. Of course, at Gallatin, one must be on their best behavior, but there would be days at Hotsfield where you had to sit in silent contemplation for hours at a time. And that was before even getting into the punishments. Hopefully, you'll have more freedom at Gallatin College. You'll be away from the eagle eyes of your parents, at least. Freddie looks as though this is the first time that her homesickness has occurred to her. "I went to, Waybourne Secondary," she says. A beat. You've never heard of the place. You know of Waybourne, though. It's a down-market part of Finburg, the capital of Westerland. There would certainly be no boarding schools there, probably no private schools at all. "Oh," Gonzalez says, too brightly. "So you're a scholarship student?" Freddie scowls and folds her arms. "Well, yeah," she growls, "but I got in on merit. Unlike you," is the undertone, and Gonzalez bristles. "Ew, excuse me," he starts. "The argument will only escalate if you don't step in." I'll change the subject subtly, asking where Gonzalez is from. Gonzalez rolls his eyes a little. "I'm from Westerland, the same as you," he says, then relents. "My parents are from Zaldo, but I was born here. They're diplomats or something. I never really got the hang of what they do." Is it Zaldo or Zaldo? Zaldoan is probably Zaldo. Zaldo is the closest neighboring country of Westerland. Freddie lifts her head and ventures that she's always wanted to visit. You've never been yourself, but you've met plenty of Zaldoan people and seen paintings and photographs of dusty terracotta palaces in the midst of desert plains. "Go in the wintertime," Gonzalez advises. "It's far too hot in the summer. You'll have to lie around and do nothing because otherwise you just die." He dramatically reenacts the death on the train seat, and Freddie laughs a little behind her hand. Then the moment of camaraderie fades and silence stretches out. Freddie leans forward on her elbows, What's your name anyway? Yeah, it took you quite a while to ask me that, right? But thanks for asking anyway. I'll do a custom given name. My name is Lila. And my surname will be Cress. Nice to meet you, Lila, Freddie says, and returns to the perennial subject of Lady Reynolds' philosophical considerations. I made sure to reference it in my entrance essay. I wrote about her philanthropic work of families in poverty and how much of an inspiration it is. And obviously she liked it. Your entrance essay must have been one of the latest ones to arrive. One afternoon, your parents sat you down to write 4 sides of paper about a time when you achieved something great before the evening post went out. At first, your mind went blank, but then you settled on. So this as far as stats and our skills, I personally, I don't really want flair. I want poise. What did I? No, poise. I don't want poise. What does intrigue do then? Hold on, give me a second. I have to review this really quick. Let's go ahead and go with winning a dressage competition for poise. Your horse has been sold now. But you were a sensational team, practicing every day and soothing your aching limbs with hot baths. Netted your first prize in dressage. You still remember the whoops and cheering from the crowds when you picked up your trophy. Of course, you didn't mention in your essay that you failed to receive disparaging comments from the judges about lacking energy. True. I can relate to that. Dressage is about style as well as grace, one woman said severely, and you do well to remember that. Well, you showed her. You got your prize anyway. Oh yeah. You tell Freddie all about your accomplishment, minus the embarrassing part, and she hangs on to your every word. So, did you? She starts to say. The door slams. A scowling student stands in the doorway, flanked by a couple of friends. When you've finished bragging, says the student, maybe you should tell them about what your parents did, and see if they still think you're so great. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree, after all. You recognize his voice. He's the one who pushed you earlier. Ooh. His black hair swept back from his face perfectly, without a strand out of place, and his olive skin is enviably clear. Ooh, he has clear skin? Sorry. Oh, good. In case I did not notice that through my many other playthroughs. Alright. Freddie and Gonzalez give you confused, nervous looks. Blaze Marchow, says the newcomer, as though that explains everything. Go on, Lila. Tell them about your family. Blaze's eyes are dark and challenging. He has you, quite literally, backed into a corner. But your parents' disgrace is the whole reason you're here. Let's go with that. Let's go, this time they backed a corrupt candidate for prime minister. And worse, encouraged others to do it as well. The world of Westerland politics is vicious. Your parents were drawn into the inner circle of candidate for Prime Minister Lord Krause, who who, it turned out, was being paid by overseas criminals to siphon campaign money to them. By the time government officials came to investigate your parents' involvement, your parents had already donated vast amounts of money, and there was no hope of getting it back. The investigators ruled that your parents were unknowing victims rather than criminal accomplices, but the damage was done. They had solicited donations from a wide circle of friends and family who demanded the debts be repaid. The investigators had not yet tracked down the money, so your parents paid out of their own pocket. They sold the house, their former friends melted away, and the three of you moved to a small rented apartment in a less than desirable district of Finberg. The money for the Gallatin College fees came from a trust set up by your great-grandmother. Came from a trust set up by your great-grandmother and could not be touched by the financiers. What should I do? My parents' actions were inexcusable. I completely reject what they did. Freddie looks relieved. Gonzalez looks uncertain. Blaze's lips curl. However you try to spin it, he says. After a long moment, Blaze turns on his heels and stomps out. Silence for a moment, and then Freddie gives a nervous laugh and cracks open her book again. Even on the train seat, Gonzalez manages to fall asleep again. The train rumbles on. The landscape shifts from rolling hills to mountains, and the bright sunshine fades to stormy clouds. As the hours roll onward, the excitement of the train subsides, and most students are talking more quietly. The motion of the train is hypnotic, and even with your head leaning against the bumpy window, your eyes drift closed. The next thing you know, whistles are blowing, and guards are shouting once more, "All change for Gallatin?" You yawn and stretch. Freddie and Gonzalez have gone, and you can see the town of Gallatin out of the window. Beyond the scattering of town buildings and the jagged Gallatin mountains, smoky blue in the distance. Despite the heavy clouds, the town has a chocolate box prettiness that is entirely different to where you grew up. You grew up in, let's say, a highly fashionable part of Finberg. There was always something interesting going on. A fashion show, an outrageous performance artist in the street, people spilling into and out of bars and restaurants every night. It was a great place to live, providing you had the money, but your parents have not for some time. Students scramble off the train in a rush, running for the tiny station entrance. With a sinking feeling, you realize the mountain roads will be too narrow for cars, and the residents here seem to rely more on horses and carriages than on anything more modern. You're caught in a bottleneck, and by the time you free yourself, only one carriage remains. Gonzalez is talking to the train conductor anxiously and does not seem to have noticed. At the last carriage, which looks barely large enough for 2 people, Blaze is handing over a coin to the driver. "Lila," Freddie trots out to you, looking worried. "They never said we'd have to bring money. I thought someone was coming to meet us." According to your invitation letter, someone was. Perhaps there's been a mistake. Above you, thunder rumbles. Usually I encourage them to stay with me so that I can talk to them. But I might just tell them to go with Blaze because I kind of want some alone time with this specific character that we're going to meet. But it's been a while since I rode with him on the carriage. So I'm going to tell him to stay. The college will have made plans for this. You wheel your trunk to a wooden bench standing next to a vast puff of gray-purple heather and settle down while Blaze's carriage rumbles away. Far in the distance, thunder crashes. Freddie and Gonzalez haul their trunks over your bench and sit down on either side of you. How do you plan to spend your time? Let's talk to Gonzalez. I'll chat with Gonzalez about his plans. Gonzalez mutters that the 3 of you should have chased down Blaze's carriage, but soon settles down and talks away while Freddie reads her book. I don't really know what I'll do after graduation, Gonzalez says. My parents want me to get married or something. They've not said much, but they've dropped a lot of hints. He doesn't sound enthusiastic about the idea. Certainly for your social circles, there's a great deal of pressure riding on making a good match for you. Making a good match. For you, most of all. Marrying would be an excellent way of restoring your parents' fortunes. At least no one cares about the gender of the person you marry. I want to marry someone I love. Gonzalez nods along, although not altogether convinced. Yes, of course, he says eventually. I suppose it's a question of finding the right someone. Thunder crashes again, closer this time. There is no sign of the promised carriage. I'm not getting caught in a storm. I'll wait here and relax. Once the rain starts falling in earnest, the 3 of you take shelter in a little tea shop called Miss Benton's. It's snug, and the decor is heavy on pastel flowers, but the eponymous proprietor, a remarkably spry elderly woman with a brightly colored cane, is eager to talk. She presses a free cup of tea upon you, which is pleasantly strong, and a slice of cake. She insists Freddie and Gonzalez take some too. After an hour's wait, Freddie is constantly glancing over his shoulder to check for the carriage. Gonzalez keeps getting up to pace up and down the shop, but the door finally slams open, ringing a tinkling bell. A figure stands in the doorway, bundled in a gray coat and a greatcoat. You're for Gallatin College? Come this way. I'm Carson. One of my favorite characters is here. I have special plans for you, buddy. This series. He holds the door open for you. You sprint to the carriage with your companions in tow, dragging your trunks with you. The rain pelts down, lightning flashes, and the thunderclap echoes almost straight away. Carson opens the carriage door and holds out a hand for your luggage. I'm going to help Carson. Carson nods briefly and you duck into the carriage. It's warm and roomy. Freddie frantically finger combs her rain-dark hair while Gonzalez shakes the back his sweep of black shakes back his sweep of black hair, dog-like, spraying at you with water. Of course, you settle in. With a jolt, the carriage starts moving. The mountain roads grow more winding as you ascend. Out of the window, all you can see through the driving rain is darkness on either side. It gives a dizzy, vertiginous feeling. You could fall at any time. Hopefully Carson knows what he's doing. A fork of lightning blazes through the cliff beside you in dramatic relief. Thunder crashes once more. One of the horses screams and the carriage jerks sideways. Carson swears. Gonzalez dives to the side and clings onto the carriage door handle for dear life. And with a shriek, Freddy grabs hold of you with a painful grip. Oh God. I'm gonna lean out the window and help Carson. The rain whips against your face, but through the darkness you can see the glimmer of lights. You shout what you see to Carson, who asks you to act as a guide. Thanks, he yells over the wind. Nearly there. The lightning flashes brightly enough that you still have an imprint of the light on your eyelids, and then, mercifully, the carriage skids to a stop. Carson thumps the roof. We're here. Gallatin College awaits. In the storm, you cannot see much of the college, but you have an impression of a long gravel drive and a tall stone archway. Carson herds you into a dark, grassy quadrangle lined with electric lamps. The blurring of light through the rain gives everything a sickly orange cast. Shallow stone steps lead up the arching wooden doors flung open. With heavy wrought iron handles larger than your hand, a heavy coat of arms hangs above the door depicting a swan and a squirrel, and beneath is a carved inscription. The truth is found in gentility. Inside the entrance hall is blessedly warm. It is blessedly warm. The fire roars in the marble fireplace, and a wide staircase upstairs to a backdrop of stained glass windows. Winds upstairs to a backdrop of stained glass windows. Oh my lord. You thank your stars that you didn't get too wet. You thank your stars that you didn't get too wet. You'd be dripping all over the intricate parquet floor. A tall, neatly dressed student stands beside another set of doors, through which you can hear a muffled voice. She has an expectant expression with a touch of a frown. Thank you, Carson, she says, the student. Of course, Miss Hartman, Carson says, ducking his head. Now that you're in the light and his hood is down, it's clear that he is the same age as you, around 18. A servant, by his rough clothing and the way he's talking to Hartman. Carson makes himself scarce to fetch the luggage, while Hartman consults a clipboard. Freddie Crawford, isn't it? He says. And Zuri Gonzalez. You two will go on in. I just need a quick word with Lila Cress. The others obediently troop in, leaving you with Hartman. Hartman is immaculately turned out, and her mousy hair is secured in a ponytail. I'm Eugenia Hartman, the head prefect. It won't be long, she says with a faintly harried look. Lady Reynolds has already started her address, but I need you to sign this. Everyone else already did, but your situation meant that the letter didn't go out. Her knowing about your situation is less than comfortable, but you scan the piece of paper she hands to you. It's simple enough. All you need is to let the teachers know what you'd like them to call you. You scribble on the form. Miss Cress, Master Cress. I think I like, what's the difference between this miss and this miss? Is there a difference? Miss Cress. Okay, I'll do Miss Cress. No, Miss Cress. I like this one. It would look nicer in text. I literally don't know what the difference is. Anyway. Thank you, Hartman says, and leads you through the doors. You're in a vast auditorium whose high buttress soars overhead. Uniformed Gallatin students sit upon wooden benches with a faintly religious look. Hartman ushers you to a bench close to the back and perches on the seat next to you, watching the stage with a studious, attentive expression. On the stage, beneath the swan-beckoned coat of arms, stands Lady Reynolds, whose photograph graces the Gallatin prospectus. She is a dark-skinned woman in her late middle age and wears a sensible but expensive dress, the color of mustard, along with a sable collar. Beside her sat a pale, grave-looking man in his 30s, a brown woman wearing a silk shirt and wide-legged trousers with glamorously red lipstick, and a tan man, barely older than you, who looks as though he's been caught in headlights. Exemplifies excellence, Lady Reynolds finishes. The dark student on the other side whoops sarcastically. Shut up, Max, Hartman hisses over your head. Max's grin is sharp. He theatrically rolls his eyes. His tightly curled black hair is braided against his scalp. What? He says loudly. I'm showing my support for the college. A couple of younger students giggle. I'll watch the other students to see how they react. I love this college, Max says in a grandiose tone that rings across the hall. I love it with every fiber of my being. Gonzalez stifles a laugh behind his hand. Freddie gives Max a severe look that matches Hartman's. As for Blaze, he has affected a poise of bored disinterest. Lady Reynolds quells Max with a thunderous look, and he subsides. Thank you for your attention, Lady Reynolds says. We will convene for dinner. The banquet hall. You've seen the Gallatin College banquet hall in grainy photos, but little could prepare you for this spectacle. 3 crystal chandeliers hang from the high ceiling, sparkling with light. Portraits of previous head teachers line the walls, along with a bronze plaque stretching nearly the height of the room, listing the prefix of years gone by. The earliest date is several hundred years ago. Long tables and benches sit beneath the chandeliers. The tables have been elaborately set with silverware and decoratively folded napkins. Bottles of wine stand on the older students' tables, along with crystal glasses. For a moment, you are disorientated. Your fellow students file past you, and you realize that you'll need to take your seat quickly before they're taken. Blaze is holding a court at a full table. There would be no room for you to join him even if you wanted to. Hartman has led Freddie to a table of prefects, all of whom are talking animatedly. Gonzalez has followed Max to another table, where Max is met with backslapping and raged cheering. Lady Reynolds gives Max a freezing look, but Max politely ignores her. Honestly, I kind of want to sit alone, but I'll sit at the table with the prefects. If I sit alone, what'll happen? I don't know. Hartman's smile is distracted when you join her and Freddie. She frequently glances at the teacher's table, which is set on a dais, Lady Reynolds and 3 teachers sit like royalty, surveying the hall. That's Miss Stalka, Hartman tells you, indicating the woman who is pouring herself a glass of wine. She's the new philosophy teacher this year. I helped interview her, and she studied all over the world. The elder, more severe looking at the 2 men, says something quietly to Miss Stalka, and her mischievous laugh in response is not at all genteel. I'm sure she'll be very interesting, Hartman says primly. Dinner is served. After your long day, you're starving. The dinner is scrumptious. A delicate soup flavored with expensive spices, followed by various roast birds, with deliciously crunchy roast potatoes. The servants top up the older students' wine periodically, and you noticed a couple of tables getting a little overexcited. I'll just have myself a glass of water. The servants here are very conscientious. After you state your preference only once, they no longer bother you with the wine bottles and bring deliciously cool ice water from a crystal decanter. Freddie's wine glass is untouched. She's more interested in grilling Hartman. You're a prefect, right? She says. Hartman touches the embroidered golden stripe on her blazer pocket and inclines her head graciously. Head prefect. It's an honor and a responsibility. She says, if you want to go contribute to the college, that's the way to go. But of course, there are other extracurricular activities. You've read about them. Gallatin College is very proud of turning out well-rounded students, and you know that teachers will be encouraging you to participate. Over dessert, Freddie starts talking about the Birchmere Society, which she has been researching beforehand. It's a study group for students with niche academic interest, she says excitedly. It's been around for hundreds of years, ever since the college started. I really want to see what books they have. Well, yes, it's very respectable, Hartman says, but as a prefect, you can shape the college into something even greater. Freddie turns to you. What did you do at your old school, Lila? Anything like that? I'll say that I took part in team sports. Hartsfield School prides itself in cricket. It's on its cricket team, and you took part as an extracurricular activity. The team is probably coping without you, but it was pleasant enough at the time. This is not like me at all. I did a sport before. It was fun, but I no athletic ability, guys. Not me. But anyway, I did a lot of sports at Hartsfield School, you say. I can't imagine, she says with a shudder. Hartman raises her eyebrows. The lacrosse team might be your style, she says as you tuck into your dessert. It's poached pears with maple syrup drizzled on top, then frozen to form a delicate lattice. Tiny flakes of gold leaf have been sprinkled over the concoction. Soon, Lady Reynolds stands to announce the end of dinner. Tomorrow, the term begins in earnest, she says. Remember that this time you shall be setting the stage for your future achievements. Do not waste it. The dormitory awaits. With scuffling and chattering, the students file out of the banquet hall. Hartman stands at the doorway. New file students, Clemency Building is this way, she calls. Though the rain has eased, the wind is still raging as you pick your way across the quadrangle path. You are the first to arrive. The Clemency Building, where your dorm is situated, is a hulking brick edifice with a sapphire-colored door. Past the deserted post room, you climb a set of spiral stairs. There is a cozily decorated common room filled with plush couches and a flickering fire. And more stairs up, By the time you reach the dorm, you're growing dizzy. It's a wide room, lined with 7 neat beds with plain coverlets. Beside each bed is a narrow closet for your clothes and belongings. You spot your trunk sitting at the foot of the bed next to the window. A scuffle of movements beneath the bed. A student emerges, blinking. She shakes back her pale curtain of hair. Behind it is a round, light brown face. "Oh," she says, "I didn't think dinner would be done yet. Do you want anything extra to eat?" She indicates a box of fruit and sandwiches sitting on the bed. "I'll eat a little, to be polite." You introduce yourself and sit. The student sits cross-legged on the bed and picks up one of the sandwiches. "It's too noisy in there," she says. "They'll be catching up with each other. If anything interesting happened in the holidays, I prefer to have my own space." She gives up on the sandwich and tucks into an apple tart with much more enthusiasm. "I'm Delacroix. I was warding my bit of the dorm against the ghost while no one was here. Would you like to help me?" Her expression is entirely serious. She dusts off her long fingers with a napkin. "I'll just watch. I'm not really skeptical about her state of mind. I don't really care. I'll just watch, because I'm intrigued." Delacroix shrugs elegantly. She rummages through a black leather satchel at her feet and withdraws a bundle of herbs and a box of matches. While you watch, she strikes the match, lights the herbs, and quickly blows out the flame. There's a certain familiarity with emotions. She clearly has a great deal of experience doing this. Delacroix draws a deep breath and then, murmuring snatches of a language you do not recognize, paces anti-clockwise around the bed. Once, twice, 3 times. Once she has finished, Delacroix's shoulders look lighter, though she is still unsmiling. "I run in a cult group here," she says abruptly. "The Children of Heptate. It's for people with a connection to the other world. Maybe you should attend. It would open your eyes." It doesn't really sound like my sort of thing. "I'll probably look at other activities," you say, and Delacroix looks bored. "It's very selective anyways," she says. Voices and footsteps echo up the stairwell, and the rest of your dorm mates troop in, chattering noisily. "Do you mind?" Delacroix says waspishly. "It's hard enough to get some peace without all of you yelling in here." "Let's not get into a fight before we've even settled in," you say. Delacroix shrugs and climbs into her bed, burrowing down under the blankets. "I missed you, Delacroix," Max says cheerfully and strides over to the bed next to her. He flings himself down, then makes a face. "Ugh, I swear the springs are even worse here than the gray storm, and that's saying something." Freddy and Gonzalez follow suit. Hartman comes in after them, and Blade strides en masse. Oh no. Blaze's gaze falls upon your bed by the window. "I am absolutely not sleeping by the door," he says. He gestures to the bed closest to the door, presumably the one he was assigned. "I'll get far too cold. You, Lila, swap with me." This isn't worth arguing about. I graciously let Blaze take the bed. "Lila, you don't have to," Freddy starts to say, but you shrug.
I don't mind, you say. I have the window bed, Blaze. Blaze looks taken aback, as though he'd expect more of a fight. Well, yes, all right. Silence stretches over the dorm. Freddie gives a nervous laugh which breaks the tension. You settle down in your new bed, and sleep does not take long to come. Next chapter, but we will get into that in the next episode. I will stop here for now. This right now is the prologue. You just finished the prologue for Crème de la Crème. It's been a fun time. Sorry for mispronouncing so many words. I really hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you found this a little relaxing or entertaining. I just hope you got something out of this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time for episode 2 and chapter 1 of Crème de la Crème. Goodbye.